So our mission, you could say, for this deep dive is to unpack this procedural world, understand the practical side, the intense attention to detail needed for what might seem simple, but is absolutely vital.
Which is?
Pulling data from the Cockpit Voice Recorder, the CVR.
Okay, let's dive in then. The star of the show, component-wise, is the CVR. What exactly is that at its core?
Right, so the Cockpit Voice Recorder, it pretty much does what the name says. It's designed to capture all the audio inside the cockpit, crew conversation, radio chatter, alarms, even little sounds like switches clicking.
Okay.
It's a really critical source of information if, something goes wrong. Helps investigators understand what happened.
And the specific job this document is all about is formally titled, Downloading of the Cockpit Voice Recorder CVR data on board with handheld multipurpose interface, HHMPI tool. Quite a mouthful.
It is, yeah.
And it's got a code in the Aircraft Maintenance Manual System, the AMM. Task 23701-00600-802-A01. That code itself tells you something, right? Like where it fits in the grand scheme.
Exactly. The AMM is basically the master instruction manual for maintaining the whole aircraft. Every single procedure, big or small, has its own unique ID code like that. Tells you the system, the area, everything.
And the key tool here, as the title says, is this HHMPI, Handheld Multipurpose Interface Tool.
Right, that's the specialized device you use. It's designed specifically for reading data from components like CVRs, or sometimes FDRs, the flight data recorders.
Now, here's something I found really interesting right off the bat. This document makes it clear that even this one specific task, downloading CVR data, isn't always exactly the same.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, you might think, download the data, that's one procedure.
Yeah.
But it immediately starts referencing different versions of the CVR itself, different part numbers.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So it's telling you right away there isn't just one standard CVR model flying around. Depending on whether the plane has, version A or version B, the steps you take, or maybe the specific connectors or tools you need, they might change slightly.
So that variation matters from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It starts the moment you even look at the aircraft's specific configuration. You need to know what you're dealing with.
And that kind of detail, that precision, it continues even before you lay a finger on the CVR itself.
Yeah.
The document has this whole section called Job Setup Information.
Right, but prep work.
It walks you through everything you need to do beforehand.
Precisely. And it's not vague. It tells you exactly where on the aircraft this job happens. Not just somewhere near the tail, but Zone 312.
Okay.
Which is part of the AFT fuselage tail section.
Yeah.
And you get in via a specific door, the accessory compartment access door, 312AR. You need that exact location.
And just getting to that location needs tools, apparently. It lists things like an access platform, says 4 meters or 13 feet.
Yeah, you got to be able to reach it safely.
And safety clips for circuit breakers, which we'll get to.
Correct. And maybe the most critical part of the setup is dealing with the aircraft's power. You can't just, plug things in.
Right.
The document requires these preliminary steps just to energize the electrical systems correctly. And that involves following other specific AMM procedures. It's not like flipping a light switch, it's a controlled process.
Which leads right into this really vital safety thing outlined right at the start.
Let me guess, circuit breakers?
Yep. You have to open them, safety them, which I guess means locking them open so they can't be accidentally closed, and tag them before you start working on the CVR system.
Absolutely non-negotiable. That's standard practice. You have to isolate the power before you start messing with the components. It's basic electrical safety, but on a much more complex scale.
And again, the detail, it tells you the exact breaker, panel 49VU, designation, COMCVRS PII.
Tells you what system it's for, yeah.
Communications CVR supply.
FIN23RK, that's its identifier in the system.
Yep, functional item number.
And even its grid location on the panel,
Yeah.
E14, you need to find that exact spot. Incredible specificity, isn't it? But essential. You pull the wrong breaker, best case, nothing happens. Worst case, you don't want the worst case.
And here's another layer of that precision we mentioned. The document actually notes that how you handle this specific breaker might even vary slightly depending on the aircraft's serial number.
Ah, okay. So like for earlier versus later models in the fleet.
Exactly. It says on AC FSN 3R1 350 do this versus on AC FSN All L might be slightly different. So knowing the plane's specific history, its serial number, matters even for pulling a breaker.
It all interconnects. Okay, so setup's done, power is managed, safety's in place, breakers are tagged. Now we get to the main event, the procedure section. Where do you start with the CVR unit itself?
First actual step related to this CVR, remove it from its mounting rack.
Okay.
And, surprise, surprise, it's not just pull it out. The document references another specific AMM task just for the removal procedure.
Of course it does. Yeah, even taking a component out has its own documented steps. You need to do it correctly, avoid damaging connectors, that kind of thing.
And right after you get it out, step 2 is a visual inspection.
Makes sense. What are you looking for?
Just, look at the connectors, the area around where it was mounted, any obvious damage, corrosion, anything. Look. Off. Check before you go further.
Good practice. A quick look can save a lot of trouble later. Okay, so visually check. Then you need to connect the HHMPI tool to the CVR. How does that work? Is it just a USB cable?
Not quite. It's not a direct plug-in to the back where it normally connects in the rack. The procedure says you need to insert a special adapter.
An adapter. Between what?
Between the CVR unit itself and the mounting tray it sits in.
So you need an extra piece of hardware just to make the connection for the download.
Seems so. It calls it a specific HNY CVR rack adapter. And get this, it lists different part numbers for the adapter depending on which version of the CVR you're dealing with.
There's that variation again.
Yeah.
Remember we said different CVR models. This is where it bites you in the procedure. You physically need the correct adapter for the specific CVR that's installed on this aircraft.
Right. Okay, so adapter chosen correctly, hopefully, and inserted. Then you need to get at the front connector on the CVR unit.
The front connector, okay.
And this step also apparently varies by CVR type. The document says you might need to turn a label that's covering the connector, or maybe even remove a little screw, depending on the model.
Wow. Tiny details, but you got to follow them. Can't force it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So adapter in place, front connector accessible. Now you connect the HHMPI tool itself.
Okay, finally.
Yes, using a specific interface cable. And again, different part numbers listed for the cable depending on the CVR model.
Of course. Consistency.
And it even mentions figures like diagrams in the manual showing you how the adapters and cables hook up. Figure 237100099100000000, for instance.
Right, so visual aids to make sure you get it right. Leaves nothing to chance, ideally.
So, okay, the physical connection is finally made. Tools hooked up, ready to pull the data now.
Almost. Now, the procedure tells you to temporarily close those circuit breakers again.
The ones we open for safety.
Yeah. You need to power the CVR back up so the HHMPI tool can actually talk to it and download the data.
Okay, makes sense. Power on, download.
Right. But here's a really interesting insight into how these documents work.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
When it actually comes to operating the HHMPI tool, hitting download or whatever the interface is, the job card doesn't tell you how to do that. It just says, obey the supplier data extraction procedure.
Wait, really? So this whole detailed aircraft procedure tells you how to physically connect the tool, but not how to actually use the tool to get the data.
Exactly. This document scope is the aircraft maintenance task. Getting the CVR ready, making the connections safely, putting it all back together afterwards.
Okay.
The step-by-step for using the HHMPI tool itself, that comes from the tools manufacturer, probably in a separate manual, like a technical engineering manual or TEM as it references.
That's fascinating. It's like a procedure linking to another procedure. You follow this aircraft procedure to get ready, then you follow the tools procedure to do the download.
Precisely. Shows how these things are layered, but also compartmentalized. Okay, so assuming you follow the tools instructions correctly, and the data is now on the HHMPI.
Time to disconnect everything.
Which is basically just doing the connection steps in reverse, right? Disconnect the tool, the cable.
Turn the label back or put the screw back in.
Remove that special adapter.
And then put the CVR unit back into its rack.
Right, and guess what?
Let me guess. Another AMM task reference for the installation procedure.
You got it. AMM task 237135400001 for installation. Always a procedure.
Okay, CVR back in. Now, what about those breakers? We open them, close them temporarily for the download.
Right, so after disconnecting the tool, you open and safety them again.
Okay. Power isolation again.
Exactly. Then later, usually as part of the final close-up, you'll remove the safety clips and close them for good, returning the aircraft power configuration to normal. It's this careful sequence of power management throughout.
Okay, disconnected, CVR reinstalled, breakers handled correctly. Almost done.
Almost, but not quite. You can't just walk away.
Yeah.
The document mandates post-procedure operational tests.
Makes sense. You have to check it still works after you've fiddled with it.
Absolutely critical. You've had the unit out, connected things to it. You must test the CVR system now to make sure it's actually recording correctly.
What kind of tests?
checking things like, are all the audio channels recording? Is the recording logic working right? Including any required time delays. And again, the document points you to specific AMM tasks for these tests. It's all about verifying system health before signing off.
Okay, test passed, hopefully. Then finally, the close-up steps.
Yep, just tying up the loose ends. Make sure the work area is totally clean, no tools left behind, no debris, nothing. That's foreign object debris, FOD, a huge deal in aviation.
Right.
Then you close and secure that access door, 312 AR. Remove the access platform you used. Basically, restore the area to how you found it.
And the very, very last step in this whole saga.
Returning the aircraft's electrical system to its original state. Usually means de-energizing the circuits you specifically energized for the job, again following specific AMM procedures, maybe variations depending on how power was set up initially. Brings the aircraft back to square one.
Wow. Okay, let's just step back for a second. We just walked through in quite a bit of detail this one job card package for downloading CVR data. What does this single document really tell us about the bigger picture of aircraft maintenance?
Well, I mean, it screams meticulous detail, doesn't it? An almost unbelievable level of planning and instruction needed for every single task. It's not just know how to use the tool. It's know the exact location, manage the access, control the aircraft power with absolute precision through multiple steps, use the correct adapters and cables for specific equipment variation.
And follow steps that constantly reference other entire procedures for things like removal, installation, power-up, testing.
Exactly. It really hammers home the non-negotiable nature of the safety protocols, too. That whole sequence with the circuit breakers open, tag, close temporarily, open again, close, finally it's intricate. But it's designed to prevent mistakes.
Yeah.
Every risk, every system interaction, it's thought through and documented. And it shows how interconnected everything is. This one task, downloading CVR data, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's nested inside this huge framework of other procedures. Power management, component handling, testing. It all links together.
It really reinforces that word. Precision. It's not just, a good idea. It's fundamental. Finding the exact door in the specific zone, identifying that one circuit breaker by channel designation, FIN, and location.
Selecting the right adapter from potentially several options based on the CVR part number. Every single step demands complete accuracy. Ultimately, I think this document, this deep dive into it, gives you a small window into this hidden world of an intense process that really underpins aircraft safety. This level of documentation and the assumption that it's followed to the letter is a huge part of why flying is as safe as it is. It's this complex ecosystem of steps, checks, verifications.
So we took that deep dive into the job card package. We laid out exactly how you download CVR data from this specific A320 SUGFL.
Yep, we saw the layers of prep, the intricate connection process, needing specific tools, specific adapters depending on the actual hardware, the fact that you rely on the tool's own separate procedures, and then those vital post-work checks.
And what really stands out is just the sheer depth of documented, mandated procedure for what you might initially think is a fairly straightforward task in aircraft maintenance.
But here's the thing, this document showed us the how, the mechanism for getting that CVR data off aircraft SUGFL. It didn't tell us why.
Good point.
Why were they downloading the data on this particular day for this specific plane? Given what the CVR does, recording cockpit audio, the act of downloading its data could be triggered by lots of things, right? Could be routine, maybe regulatory checks require periodic downloads, maybe it's scheduled maintenance, or it could be troubleshooting. Maybe there was a report of an issue with the audio system.
Or something more serious.
Or, of course, it could be part of an investigation after some kind of incident or operational event. So, thinking about this very specific, meticulous procedure we just explored, what does its existence imply about all the different reasons that CVR data might be needed? What possibilities does actually analyzing the data from that crucial little recording device open up? For understanding operations, for ensuring safety in the future.
Something to definitely think about next time you hear about that little black box.